people would ask me, what search engine do you use? And I'd say Google, and they'd say, what's that? So this is really prehistoric times, I'll tell you.
Well, I'll tell you, our founder, Chris Burris, that was the exact same story, right?
Yeah.
So we started off as eWeb style, became eWeb results, started doing the SEO, and he was the host and co-host of this podcast for a long time. I feel like, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. We always hear that.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that, like, what is perplexity, right? Like, what, I mean, maybe people have heard of ChatGPT, but what is Grok? Or maybe I've heard of that now with some of the news, but I feel like there's a new cycle happening and everything's new. There's kind of new territory. There's like everything that I'm seeing is if you don't position yourself right now in these LLMs and in let's say 18 months, it's going to be 10x harder to position in them. And a lot of people are not paying attention to it. So I just feel like it's a new era of search. And I remember even when I would say the word SEO and people didn't really know what that was, but they're like, I know I need that. I feel the same thing with like AI and even LLM visibility or surfacing. I feel like that's, it's that the next chapter really, right?
Right, exactly. It's, as you say, history does repeat itself a little bit. What really strikes me is how some of the core fundamentals, if you've been doing, really high quality SEO, as you guys have, that some of the core fundamentals were obvious going back over a decade. I mean, we go back to 2011 when Google rolled out Panda and they gave us the guidelines, what constitutes quality content, and they had the list of questions. And they're still using the same list of questions, what constitutes quality content. Now, of course, that doesn't mean nothing has changed. It just means that there are some fundamentals that are really, really solid. And what I was starting to say in the green room was that up until recently, we've really considered reputation management as kind of a subset of SEO, of digital marketing, basically centered on reviews. I'm starting to change my own mental framing, and I'm thinking it's all reputation management. And SEO becomes a subset of that, because what you need is, okay, what's your reputation? Not necessarily in the minds of the consumers, although ultimately, yes. But what's your reputation with these large language models? What are they going to say about you when people make the shift, not just to saying something like, foreign car repair near me, but instead they're saying, hey, I need a repair shop for my BMW. Who does that near me, and which one has the best reputation, and how do you compare them? And we're already getting into that now. And the LLMs, the one thing that I've noticed that kind of works in our favor at the moment, LLMs are gullible, so we can craft that narrative if we are paying attention, if we're trying to make our content, basically get into the sphere of what they decide on, which is then another discussion.
So yeah, let me speak to a couple of things that you said. First is like the EAT framework is a very solid framework. When they added that experience component to that, I think that was because you could synthesize a lot of the expertise through, content generated by AI, and whether it be e-commerce or whether it be whatever you had experience with, if you are in a picture of it, right, you're proving that you have experience with it. And then you match that experience level. Okay, maybe you're not a doctor, but you've taken this product or this product. Like it gets a little murky as far as your money, your life, and like those channels you go down. But the EAT framework is a fantastic framework. And I love what you're saying about the reputation management, because it's about brand equity. It's kind of spread out all across the internet. The LLMs are really like an intelligent human that's doing really in-depth research, and we just want to kind of shortcut it. And the shortcutting is the reviews of other people, right? I forget exactly what that term's called, but I agree with you. I think that there was a strategy for maybe overwhelming reviews to kind of push down bad reviews, or there was kind of
Right.
tactics of reputation management, but now it's overall, what are people doing? What are people saying? And to kind of bring it into the conversation of where it's at right now, of what I'm seeing is, you were talking about the LMs being gullible. And I think that that's the predominant issue. I've talked to a couple buddies that have gone to kind of some smaller SEO conferences, and it's all about still tricking. Like, what's the next
Mm.
trick? Right.
Yeah,
And
right.
right. I mean, and so the thing that I see though, the reason they're gullible is they've just been exposed to real-time data.
Mhm.
Okay. They've been trained on data sets. And I've talked about this kind of, uh, I, I don't know if it's a, a, a way to look at things. It's not really a framework or a thesis, but it's essentially, there's like a land grab. Okay. That's happening. And why the land grab is happening today is because the LLMs aren't sure. Right. Right. And I have seen, I was at a conference where someone made up a fake city and kind of ranked the fake city as an example.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, they are like, they only have the data that's fed to them, but over time, and they're looking at, what users are doing and how users are interacting. So like that fake city or restaurant or whatever you want to say, if there's no engagement, or it loses engagement, it'll lose favor. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so I think this gullibility component is really like the solidification of where these brands are going to sit in these LLMs. And they're going to kind of, it's going to be a repetitive loop where it's going to kind of lock them in as the trusted source. So if you're not in there to knock out those incumbents, just like the top 3 positions in Google, like I've run up clients to